This is Eddie with Horror Junkies of Utah, and today I'm going to be talking about the Walking Dead comic books, aka graphic novels for people that don't want to be known for reading comic books. I'm going to be doing some comparison between the TV show and the actual comic books. The comics are actually quite interesting because it's all in black and white, so you don't have color, so it kind of plays with your mind with how all the pictures, all the images are all in black and white. How the comic book starts off is really interesting. It starts off almost the same like the TV series, but has different elements. I understand where they're coming with the TV. They don't want to do a scene for scene from the pages of the comic. They needed to make it interesting, capture the comic book lovers, because this actually started out on the comic books first before it became a big hit TV series, before the zombie craze happened and everybody was like, now I love zombies. So in the comic books, what's interesting is how when Rick and his buddy get shot in their police chase and everything, when they have the guy cornered, Rick actually gets shot through the chest. You actually see the bullet go and enter through his chest and everything. It was pretty awesome how they actually did that. I actually enjoyed that a lot more than how they did in the TV series. And how he wakes up in the hospital and everything is kind of interesting comparing it to the TV series, because you don't see the dead inside don't open on the doors. It's just two blank doors, and he opens it and he's seeing all these zombies, and it's just nuts what's going on with that. Right. How Rick and Morgan meet is kind of interesting. The son ends up hitting him over the shovel and everything, and his dad Morgan comes in and is like, what the hell are you doing, son? I thought he was a zombie. And what's interesting, how in the TV series, how you actually get to see Morgan's wife outside luring around the house and everything. You don't see that in the comic books. One thing with the comic books, it's very fast-paced moving. It has more of a fast pace than the actual Walking Dead TV series. It just doesn't slow down like how the TV series does. I mean, it's like boom, boom, boom. He meets Morgan, and they spend the night at the house and everything. In the morning, they go to the sheriff's house and they get all their weapons, all their gear, and that's where Rick, splits off. And he actually gives Morgan a cop car, not a Jeep. In the TV series, he gives him a Jeep to drive. And in the comics, he actually gives him one of the cop cars, one of the beer cop cars. Tell him he has to return it if everything goes back to normal, which was interesting. So after Rick gives Morgan the Jeep and everything, they actually see a zombie by the fence and everything. And in the comics, they actually leave the zombie alone. In the actual TV series, they actually kill the zombie. If I remember correctly, I think Morgan stabs him in the brain, because he doesn't want Rick wasting the bullets, and also too alerting the zombies. So in the comic book, they actually leave the zombie alone, and Rick and Morgan end up splitting off, going to their own directions. Rick starts heading to Atlanta to find his family, to find his wife and Carl and all that. So when Rick's heading down towards Atlanta, he ends up running into some problems with the car. He ends up going to this house and this farm, and ends up finding a horse, and he ends up getting on the horse, and he starts heading to Atlanta again. Once he gets into the city, he actually meets Glenn, which is quite interesting how that all works compared to the TV series. I would have to go back and kind of look at how that happened with the TV series. It's been quite a while for season 1 since I've watched it. But it's kind of interesting how the comic, Glenn ends up saving Rick and helping him out and getting him up into the buildings, and Rick ended up finding that Glenn actually has a group of people out in the wooded area, and Rick starts thinking, well, maybe my wife and my son are there. So Glenn and Rick actually go to the group in the woods, and they end up seeing the RV and all the vehicles. They have a couple vehicles there, and Rick ends up seeing his wife and his son Carl, and they get reunited, which is quite interesting because they don't really show too much of the affair that's going on between Shane and Rick's wife and everything that's going on there compared to the TV series. Because in the TV series it shows them hooking up and getting together and everything like that. So that was quite interesting how they went with that. And Shane's like, it's good to see you, buddy. I had to do what I had to do. I was concerned about your family. And Rick's like, no, you had to. So Rick's all entrusting with Shane, which is kind of interesting because I'd be like, man, you mother sucker, you went off with my wife and kid and like totally left me at the hospital and everything. So that was kind of interesting how that goes about. And, Rick and Shane, go back to having a great friendship and everything, which is kind of interesting how that works. And they end up going hunting. And they go in the woods and they actually come upon this pretty cool, in the comic books, how the pages are with the zombie eating the deer and everything. And they're debating on, would we want to eat that deer or what? Because, it's rotten deer. The zombies eating it. So, you're gonna either get really sick, end up getting the zombie virus, or one of the two. And they end up, the group, there's a couple women doing laundry and stuff, and there's actually zombies that come into the group area, and they almost get attacked, and luckily Rick and Shane come back, and they kill the zombies. So Dale, he actually ends up killing one of the zombies with an axe. They actually brutally kill the zombie with an axe, which is kind of interesting compared to the graphic novels with the TV series, because they end up using a lot of hand-to-hand weapons. They use a lot of axes to kill the zombies. And what's also too interesting is Rick doesn't have a revolver. His revolver he doesn't have. He actually has a semi-automatic Glock, police issue. And actually in the comic books they actually say they're Glocks, which is kind of interesting. I would think they would have to get a copyright name with that. So that was kind of interesting. And, just the whole dynamic with how the group's going and everything compared to how the TV series goes, quite interesting on how that all happens. So with Shane's death and everything, it's actually ends very different compared to the TV series and the comic books. In the TV series, Rick and Shane get in an argument and everything, and Rick actually ends up killing Shane, which in the comic books, how it happens is very spontaneous. Shane almost becomes bipolar because in the TV series they're building up to that, but in the comic book it's just so spontaneous what happens. They actually go on another hunting adventure trip to get more meat and everything, and Shane just becomes very bipolar and is like, dude, this is not supposed to how it's happened. You weren't supposed to come back and everything. And he's just getting ready to just hurt Rick, and Carl, Rick's son, ends up saying, don't hurt my daddy, and he ends up shooting Shane and killing Shane, which is quite interesting. I definitely prefer the way Shane died in the comic books. I think they should have used that in the actual TV series. But I understand, in the TV series they don't want, I guess the little kid killing an adult, So that was kind of interesting how that all played out. So Robert Kirkman, what he's done with the comic books and what he has done with the TV series has been quite interesting. I've only read the Compendium 1, which covers issues 1 through 49. So there's more to come with the issues. They're almost up to, I think, over 200 issues now. So it's kind of interesting how they compare the TV to the comics. Robert did a great job on the comics, and he does a great job on the TV series. Out of the two, I actually enjoy the comic books more right now than I do the TV series. TV series seems like it's drained out a little bit with how slowly things progress. I think where they spend so much time on certain things, it's like you could speed it up a little bit. I like how the comic books are just fast paced. It's always just going. You're always learning something new. So I've been really enjoying the comics. I'll be reading the Compendium 2, and I will be doing a review on that here probably in the next couple weeks, and I'll let you guys know more about it. This is Eddie for Junkies of Utah. Have a great night.